Insiders linked the Canucks to a former player, and this was exactly what the Canucks needed. I'll get into both of this later on in this episode, but before I start, I'm proud to say that this episode is sponsored by Rentals.ca. Moves are coming. With all the rumors and reports that have been coming out around the Canucks, fans have been expecting for a lot of major shakeups, not only around the league, but around the Canucks, which should definitely be exciting for hockey fans. And if you feel like you need some extra excitement in your life, then it's time to move, and Rentals.ca has you covered. Rentals.ca is Canada's largest apartment hunting network. You can rent houses, apartments, condos, whatever it is, Rentals.ca has you covered. From coast to coast, you can go straight to Rentals.ca website. That's super clean and easy to use. You can pinpoint exactly on a map where you want to move. The interactive system, and this is awesome. You can click on the street, you can see your listings. You can see exactly where you want to start your life or where you want to start your new life to. Check out Rentals.ca. It's going to be in the pinned comment. It's going to be in the description. They're huge supporters of not only the NHL, but this channel. So definitely check them out. But with that, let's hop straight into the first topic today, which is Podkolzin shines in his debut. Now, Podkolzin obviously did come up for the debut of his season for the Vancouver Canucks. No points, shots, or registered hits, but Podkolzin finished the game 5th among forwards in FF percentage at 63.64 and 4th in X goals for percentage at 75.14. Over 12 minutes and 39 seconds of ice time in his season debut for the Canucks. He worked his butt off and certainly looked right out there. Overall, great stuff. Obviously, we've seen Podkolzin start his season in the AHL, and it looked very similar to what Höglander did just one season ago. He kind of struggled a tiny bit in his season with the Canucks, got sent down, and when he did rejoin the team, he looked outstanding. I mean, if you look at Podkolzin, this year with the Abbotsford Canucks, he had 44 games played, 15 goals, 13 assists for 28 points. Before going down to the Abbotsford Canucks, in his last season with the Canucks in 2022-2023, he had 39 games played, 4 goals, 13 assists for 7 points. In his rookie year in 79 games, he had 14 goals, 12 assists, and 26 points. So overall, he looked a lot better in his first game up than he did in his previous season with the Canucks. Obviously, he gained his confidence back in the AHL, and he really slotted in perfectly on this third line. We've seen Podkolzin centered by Lindholm, and Garland continued to play on the right wing. I think the biggest thing here was just the motor on Podkolzin. Garland really feeds off guys like this. We've seen this with Dakota Joshua, who is still out with a broken hand. But Podkolzin came in and looked outstanding for the Canucks. Yes, he didn't put up a point. Yes, he didn't score. Yes, he didn't lay any hits. But he really made his impact on the ice. He set up Garland for a beautiful shot, which did get blocked. But overall, I thought he looked outstanding. And I think this is what the Canucks have been really looking for. Baines came up. Baines looked good during his NHL debut, during a couple games up. But he did end up getting sent back down. I think this is perfect as he got a taste of the NHL. The team really got a taste of seeing what he looked like in the NHL. And I'm expecting big thing for Baines just next season. But I think Podkolzin's time to stay with this team might be here for this season, next season, whatever it might be. Podkolzin has to stay. Now, the big thing is when Dakota Joshua comes back, I think he's going to go straight back out on that third line with Lindholm and Garland. But this is where you can kind of move things around. I mean, right now, the second line is Mikheyev, Miller, and Boeser. But I think Podkolzin could slide right in here with his high effort next to a guy like JT Miller and Boeser. I think this would be the perfect second line. And yes, I know Mikheyev is getting paid a lot. Yes, I know you can't really scratch him. But I think this is where you can move him down into a fourth line role. He almost looked invisible on the ice. And by invisible, yes, you could notice him. But I've watched him shy away from so many hits. He wasn't following through his checks. And the big thing was, when you're in a slump, you need to do things that impact the game more than scoring. And he hasn't really shown that. And honestly, I could see his time on the Canucks coming very short. And I think deadline might be, the end of his career with the Canucks. And this kind of segues into the second thing of Tyler Toffoli linked to the Canucks. Now, Tyler Toffoli is a name that everyone knows. And Dolly just kind of spoke about this and wrote in The Athletic. He said, Tyler Toffoli is an interesting name to track here. He had meaningful chemistry with Pettersson during his brief run with the Canucks in 2020. And the freshly extended Canucks center is a huge fan of his game, said Dolly. Also, lack of heaviness in this team forward lineup has factored heavily into the organized thinking Joshua's absence, which is why we're also keeping an eye on Jordan Greenway. The team has rated Greenway heavily for a long time, and he could be a deadline target that shakes loose in the short of price range the Canucks would prefer to pay ahead of March 8th. So yes, obviously Dakota Joshua has been missed. They don't have that just the workhorse kind of guy, the guy that's going to go in there and put his body on the line by throwing huge hits, sending the shockwaves through the team to really just motivate this team. Garland hasn't looked the same without him. I thought this game he looked a lot better with a guy like Podkolzin there. But I think getting Joshua back is going to be a huge impact. So going for a guy like Jordan Greenway may be nice. This is a guy you could probably slot onto the fourth line to add more heaviness, more just playoff caliber style hockey. But I think Tyler Toffoli is the guy they really need to focus on. I mean, right now, Darren Dreger was speaking on NHL or Inside Trading, saying the Devils would prefer to extend Toffoli, and they're engaged in extension talks in some degree with his agent. However, New Jersey are not a playoff team as of right now, and they will take the next 3 games out west to deeply just kind of evaluate their team and see where they're standing. Now you ask yourself, what happened on this Western Coast road trip? They're currently 1-3 over the past 4 games. They're 8 points out of a wild card spot. And like I said here, they're just going to kind of look at this, evaluate the team, and with the team going 1-3 in this span and being so far out of the playoffs, I think this is where we're really going to see the Devils kind of looking to ship off a couple of their UFAs. I mean, Tyler Toffoli this season on the struggling Devils, mostly due to their goaltending, the forwards have still been performing. In 59 games, he has 26 goals, 18 assists for 44 points. Yes, he's a -11, but as I said, the team can really not keep the puck out of the net. His shooting percentage is floating around usually what he's shooting at with 14.8%. He has 300 total shots on net. He's taken a few faceoffs, but I mean, in a total of 38 faceoffs, that's not going to determine what he's doing because this guy is 100% a winger. He has 8 block shots, 59 hits. He also has 23 takeaways. And this is why I'm saying you need to look at Tyler Toffoli if this is a guy Pettersson likes. Yes, Toffoli is on the last year of his deal. He was on a 4-year deal when he was signed in Montreal. He went to the Devils, and he is on the last year of his $4.25 million contract. Can the Canucks afford this? Not entirely. They're going to have guys like Carson Soucy return their lineup. Podkolzin just came up. Dakota Joshua is set to return in just a few weeks. But if they send some money out, this is where things kind of get interesting. And you can really look at acquiring a guy like this. I mean, right now on the defensive pairing, you have guys like Ian Cole, Zadorov. One of these guys, if you take Noah Juulsen out, can stay in this lineup. But if you're looking at Noah Juulsen and how he's been performing, maybe they look at a guy like Ian Cole, Zadorov. Maybe they think about shipping him out. As I said, $4.25 million is a decent bit of money. But there's one guy that really pops into my mind of who they might trade. And I think it's going to be Podkolzin. Or sorry, not Podkolzin, Mikheyev. When you look at Mikheyev, as I said, he hasn't been himself. Yes, he's on a 3-year deal. Yes, it's going to be hard to ship a guy like this out. But if you kind of dangle him around with maybe a lower-end prospect, maybe a pick, even if you retain some of this money, you can ship this guy out. Like I said, maybe you could put a guy like Zadorov out. Whatever it might be, I think you need to really focus on just seeing what teams want for him. As I said, Toffoli is a guy that Pettersson's a huge fan of. With him having 26 goals this year, I think putting him in line with Petey would just be outstanding. I mean, you look at the lines right now, it is Höglander, Pettersson, and this is where I think Toffoli would slide in perfectly. Then you can move a guy like Podkolzin up with JT Miller and Boeser. You get Dakota Joshua to come back with Lindholm and Garland, and that really just fills out your top 6 to make 3 very strong lines. And honestly, if PD wants this guy, I think you need to go out and get him. Yes, he's here long term. Yes, he signed his deal. But they had a great year together when he was on the brief stint in 2020. They ended up not signing, which I think was a big mistake. Now they're looking at moving out a few pieces to grab him. Maybe you can get a second team to come in and just kind of retain some salary. If the Devils are truly selling and you dangle around a couple picks with an extra pick, maybe they want a goalie prospect, whatever it might be to get him retained, send him to a second team, let them retain, get a 75% retained Tyler Toffoli, Figure out what you're doing with them in the offseason and just ride this team out. Try to win the Stanley Cup. I think that's what they really need to look at. So what's your thoughts on this? Do you think Podkolzin has made enough of an impact in his first game to just get more of a stint and maybe stay in the lineup for the rest of the year? Do you think Tyler Toffoli is the perfect piece they should go get, and he can slot in perfectly on that top line, right wing, left wing, whatever it might be? Let me know down in the comments. While you're down there, make sure to click on the description or in the pinned comment. As I said, Rentals.ca is a huge sponsor of this channel, a huge fan, I should say. And honestly, check them out if you need a move. They're huge fans of the NHL, just like all of us. And while you're down there, leave a comment. Who do you want the Canucks to get? What are you most excited for March 8th deadline? And are you bought in for this team to win a Stanley Cup? But that'd be it for this episode. Make sure to like, subscribe, leave a comment. Take care.